to kind of continue on, I'm gonna kind of going for the barrage tactic where I kind of was throwing a whole bunch of stuff at you guys. I think I was on the WCS and UCS kind of area at the time when we kind of had to break out. We talked about, drawing different lines. We talked about different UCSs. The coordinate system is where this X and Y starts from. When you think about a user coordinate system or a coordinate system, you think about X and Y. That's a Cartesian coordinate system. Okay. You add the Z in there as well. That's the elevation. That's the little square. I can't zoom in on that. That's the little square that's actually coming towards us. X goes to the right, Y goes up, and positive Z comes towards us. Negative Z goes away from us. Negative X goes this way. Negative Y goes this way, goes down in this particular direction. Okay. So we talked about a couple of things about drawing. I actually went over the circle thing. We did the arc. We did pan. We did transparent zooms. And let's talk about the line command a little bit and use transparent zoom. We talked about erasing. All right, so if I'm here, we talked about this as well. We'll just kind of do a quick review. If I'm here and I type in erase and then I hit L for last, this is a selection method. It doesn't require me to pick anything on the screen. And I hit enter. Okay, if I do it again, erase and last, it picks the last entity in the drawing. All right, so it doesn't matter where that entity is. Like if I draw a line here, 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 and I draw a line here, 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 and here. And this line here is my last entity. If I zoom in over here and I type in erase, last, nothing highlights, and I hit enter, guess what? That line is now gone. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's on the screen or not. It's going to select it and get rid of it. Okay, another concept is previous. Okay, if you actually move something and say I'm down here and I'm like, oh, I want to move that again, I say move P for previous. What it says selected is the previous things I selected. So one thing you want to make sure you understand is when you select something P for previous and you're picking a point, and you're kind of like, where's it at? I don't see it. You might have to zoom out so you can sign to see where it's at. Okay, so you have a couple of different methods of selecting. All right. First, you have the ability to pick something. You can say erase, and you can use crossing, right to left. Okay. You can use window, which means it has to encompass inside the box you draw. That's left to right. All right. You can also use crossing polygon, like erase. Crossing polygon, CP, means you draw a crossing, and it doesn't matter which direction you go from. Okay. As long as it crosses it or it encompasses it, it's going to catch it. Okay. So then you go here, boom, and hit enter when you're done, and done. They're all gone. I'm going to oops those back with the oops command. Oops is not the same as undo. Undo undoes the command. Oops just brings back what the last thing you erased, or the last things you erased. When I say things, if it was one item, it's going to bring back that one item. You can only use oops the one time. If you had erased 75 items, it's going to bring back those 75 items. Okay, so I oops those back. Those are back for us. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the fillet command. The fillet command is a great command. Fillet is a great command for adjusting your edges. Okay, so if I want to set my radius to something like here to here, okay, have to understand that if I pick this, boom, those points there, I'm good. Now, something else to understand is like if you have a line here and you have a line coming across here, the fillet part will take place on the edges that you select. If I pick here and here, it's going to go this way. If I pick up here, it's going to go this way. If I pick up here, it's not going to do anything. Okay, so you have to make sure you pick the correct sides that you want to do. If I want to come this way, I cannot start by picking over here. I can't do that because I can't get that to come from here this way in any way, shape, or form. So you have to escape, start over, pick here, and pick here. You have to make sure you pick in on the sides that you actually want it to fillet to. Because if you have a little close edges and things like that, and it kind of goes the wrong way, you're kind of like, it went the wrong way. You have to, you can actually undo that, okay? All right, that's the fillet command. Chamfer, we've talked about chamfer. Chamfer is just basically putting an angle on the edge, okay? Again, we've discussed this before. That's camper A. Camper. Camper A is the distance. Okay, so you type in distance, and I'm going to just pick a couple of distances. I'm going to say D for distance, and I'm going to pick a distance here. Say I want it to be this long, and I'm going to hit enter to accept the same distance because you can have different sides or sizes on each chamfer edge. So you have the first edge you pick, and then you have the second edge you pick. So I'm going to hit enter so they're the same. That basically makes it's going to be like kind of like a 45-degree angle between the two if they were straight lines. Okay, but if I wanted this one to come this way a little bit farther, so it chopped off that distance from here to here and chopped out that distance from here to here. So if I made the first distance shorter from here to here, this would have been closer to here. So let's look how that looks. Undo. I'm going to chamfer. Okay, I'm gonna say D for distance, and say I want to go from here to here, and then I want it to go from here to here. Now I'm gonna have longer edges. If I pick backwards, it's gonna give me the shorter one on this one and the longer one on this one. But if I pick here and then here, it gives me the shorter distance here and the longer distance here. This, keep in mind that that association for the first distance and the second distance has to do with where you pick and pick. All right, good. Trim command. When you use the trim command, so let's draw. Boom. You use the trim command, the first thing it prompts you for is select objects. Okay, now it just says select objects, but it just above it, if you read up, because if this is why it's important to have your command line where you can actually read it. If it was down here, you would just see the word, let me do it, trim. You would just see select objects. Okay, but if you expand this, you see the full prompt. It says select cutting edges. Okay, so I'm gonna hit enter. I'm gonna pick the cutting edge. This is my cut. This is my line that I want to slice things on. Okay, then I hit enter. And now it's saying to trim or shift select to extend. Now trim has gotten to where they have a little combination where you can trim, slice, extend. Just ignore that for now and understand that you can toggle back and forth between them. I'm just going to stick with trim. Now you have fence, crossing, project, edge, and erase. Okay, so I'm just going to come here and I pick here. Boom, and I'm done. Now what happened here? Okay, if you look here, this line that I actually picked didn't actually go across the trim cutting line. That's why it didn't get cut. Okay, there was another option you could have done there as well. I'm going to undo that. Trim. Good God, trim. I can't type. I'm going to pick here. And then you can say E for edge. And then just pick the side. Okay, or actually, no. Oh, that's the extend part. My bad. Trim. But again, you can pick here. And you can pick individuals now. And once you hit enter, you can pick, it shows you what you're going to trim if you pick on it. Notice it's, it doesn't do much here because it says, hey, there's nothing there. But I zoom in, I can see that line doesn't go across there, and then I can trim it from there. But again, you can come across here, draw this, come across here, and you're good. And then you can zoom in and catch that one there. And so that's your trim command. Extend works much the same way. So let's do this. I'm going to move most of this stuff here. I'll just grab these here as well. I'll move these up here. Okay, if I extend, I pick what I want to extend to, boundary edges. I pick that. Now, anything I touch is going to extend to that. So if I pick here, it's going to extend to. If I do a crossing across here, all these will extend as long as I can get them to touch. And just keep going across them, boom, pick, and they actually all do their extend. So trim and extend are extremely powerful commands, and you will use them quite a bit in your CAD careers as well. All right. Now, regen. Oftentimes you will, there's not much in this drawing, so you're not going to see it much. But if you have regen, redraw. Redraw is not used very much anymore because you used to have what's called blips on the screen. They no longer have blips except when you're drawing like a P line. Like if I draw a P line and I click here, boom. Notice that little white mark by it right there. See that? That's a blip. Okay, if I pick here, pick here, pick here, that's to let me know where I started the command. As soon as I hit C for close, it will get rid of the blip and put it there as well. But before, you used to have blips that would pop up all over wherever you were placing. They didn't actually refresh. They just kind of stayed there. And you'd use the redraw command and it would actually refresh and those would go away. All right. So you don't use redraw a whole lot, but you will use regen a lot. Now there's a command called regen auto. Okay. And that's typically on. Okay. If you turn regen auto off, then it doesn't regen when it needs to. Okay. So if I zoom out so far, okay, it just keeps regenerating. I just keep going out, 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 out. Okay. With regen auto off, it won't let me go out that far. So I say zoom sense, and here I am. Now it says regen auto off. There's only so far I can zoom out. Now it goes out of ways, still going out of ways. Maybe regen auto is ignoring me now, but it doesn't. It regens when it needs to. And this drawing is not very big and there's not very much into it, so it's not going to have a problem regenerating. But when you have a larger model set, you have a lot of entities and things like that in your drawing, it gets rather cumbersome and it tries not to do anything. And our video cards have gotten so proficient now, they actually can store most of this refresh data in the video card, and they actually just kind of snap it back to the screen without any issues. But there's also a regen all. When you do regen all, it regenerates your viewports and model space and layout and everything else. Okay, so that's regen all. You use that, you want to regen everything. And then, because sometimes you'll do things in your model space, you come over your viewport, it hasn't taken place. Like you could change the color of a layer, you could actually change some things from hidden to this or whatever. They can slide up underneath another object, and then your viewport wouldn't show that information. So you actually do a regen all to get those things to actually come across and show up properly. All right, so again, we're pretty much sticking in model space. I still haven't taken you guys to maker space yet, but we'll kind of get to that point later. Okay, we've talked about units. Okay, something Brandon was doing earlier is he was drawing everything in feet, but in all reality, you're drawing in inches by default for the most part. And unless you are in survey or anything like that. Now, oddly enough, the material you're trying to draw is typically done in feet units, okay? Because surveyors work in feet units, they do not work in inch units. All right. But you're trying to draw your house as well. That was the assignment. So you should have been in drawing in inches and drawing your property line as you wanted to make sure you go there. Now, if you're on decimal mode, you cannot input feet and inches. Okay. If I'm on decimal mode, I'm an error. I type and I want to draw something that's 10 feet. I type in 10 feet and I put the tick mark. It says that ain't going to work. Okay. If I say 120, which is 10 feet in inches, it draws it just fine. Okay. So if I go to my units and I set this to architectural, all right, again, we talked about precision at one point in time. We're going to make sure you understand what that precision is. I'm going to change my rotation, my angle units to have some decimal points as well for accuracy as well. I'm going to pick OK. So now I can draw, boom, 10 feet, boom. Now you can also mix and match this next part a little bit, because if I want 10 and a half feet, how much is that? That's 10 foot 6 inches, correct? So if I go line from here, and I say 10 feet 6 inches, that's 10 and a half feet. But I can also do a line from here. I can say here, I can say 10 foot 0.5. Boom, it'll still give me 10 foot 6 inches. So now if I list it, okay, you can see it's 10 foot 6 inches. All right, 10 feet and a half. Although I actually did 0.5. Crap, that wasn't 10 foot 6 inches. Never mind. That's in engineering. Okay, you do 10. Yeah, okay. All right, so that's where you can get some benefits there and understand how you're inputting your distances and everything else there. So, so what I meant to do was I meant to do this 10.5 feet, and then put the 5. I put it behind the foot, which means that's an inch. And so now you can see that's 10 foot 6 inches right down here. Okay. So understand your units, get familiar with units and what the differences are. I typically work in decimal for 97% of the stuff I do. If I'm trying to actually measure things or something like that, or get links and things like that for like bill of materials or something like that, I will switch over to an architectural unit, and then it'll actually list those things for me. Because if I'm listing a piece of polyline, let's do a polyline, and I'll say here, 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 and say this is all for some reason conduit or it's cable. Say it's cable, and I don't know how long that is. If I'm units are in decimal, click OK, and I list L for last because it's the last thing I drew. I hit that, and it comes up and says that is 18,239 inches. I'd like to know what that is in feet, because good God, what is that? Okay. If I set my units back to architectural, click OK, and then I list that L for last because it's still my last entity. Then I can quickly see that's 1,520 feet. You know, because you have 1,519 feet and 11 and 5/16 of an inch. So that gives me a little bit better understanding of what that distance is in my head. Because I look at 18,239, I'm like, damn, that looks like a long way. And then you realize, okay, it's 1,500 feet. So you can always do the math and divide this quickly by 12 and kind of get there. But you know, some of us don't really like to do that kind of stuff in our head. Okay. Significance accuracy of your measurements is extremely important. All right. Let's talk about our units. I'm going to set my units here to a 1/16 of an inch. Let's actually go half inch. Okay. And I'll pick OK. So I don't have snap on right now. If I hit snap, it's all off. Okay. If I draw a line from here, F8, and I put it here, and then I say offset, and I'm going to offset this. I'm going to pick a distance, and look at my little thing here. It's telling me it's 3 inches, 2.5 inches. And it looks like that's going to be my distance right there. Okay, I'm going to pick 1.5 inches, boom. And I'm going to offset this, boom, 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 boom. If I add this up, that should be 1.5, 3, 4.5, 5. That should be 5 inches between the end point of this to the end point of this. I check my distance. Sorry, distance from E and D point of here to E and D point of here. Lo and behold, it's 5 inches. But wait, let's set our units to something a little bit more accurate. Decimal. I'm going to set my decimal places to 8 characters or 8 decimals. Now distance from E and D point of here to E and D point of here. 4.9185860. That is not 5 inches. Okay. Now that is less than 3/32 of an inch off, but it is not 5 inches. So you have to understand that when you're dealing with accuracy, you want to make sure you appreciate what can happen. Because if I start offsetting this down the way here, say I made copies of this, and I did a whole bunch of these, say I copied this over 120, boom, and then 240, boom, and then 360, boom, then I should have a consistent measurement from here to here, plus those 5 inches, and it would kind of go across. But if I took that measurement across, I would actually lose quite a bit of distance across this. So that's where you want to make sure you understand the accuracy of your units and what's presented to you on the screen. It also affects you when you click here and you look over here to check the length of it. Okay, if you look at the length, let's draw a line. I'm just going to draw this line from here, and I'm going to turn units. I'm going to set my units back to architectural, so it kind of looks here, and I'm going to set my accuracy to just 0. Okay, so now I'm just at even inches. So I can draw on here, and I'm like, okay, that's 1 foot 9 inches. But now if I list that, or if I just pick the properties on that, down here in my properties, you'll actually be able to see exactly how long it is. You can see it's 1 foot 9 inches. All right, angle is 0 degrees. That's great. I know where I'm at. Okay. Let's say, now let's check our units here again. Let's go to decimal, increase our accuracy. Now pick on it, and you see it is not how long was it supposed to be? I forget, 21 inches, but it's actually only 20 inches long, 20.94698. So the accuracy is there. Another thing you can do here is like here. Okay, I'm going to eyeball this. Boom. Now that looks pretty straight. Is it? You look down here at the angle, 0.0609. It is not straight. And this will happen to you a lot of times. You'll actually grab a line, you're thinking you're moving it down, you hit F8, you're sliding it down here, you're like, all right, good deal. And you grab that one line and you moved it, and you're like, all right, that line was straight. But and it looks straight. I mean, you move your crosshair over it, looks like it's pretty good. But in all reality, you click on it, you can see that line is not straight. The angle is 0.000245. How do you fix that? Okay. You find out which line you want to be in the where you want, and you actually move this to the where you want to go. So now I pick on that point, and I say point Y of E and D point of this side. Now I drag it down. Now, if you look here, the angle is exactly 0, and you have an accurately horizontal line. All right, good. All right, let's see. Here was actually a fun one. So let's use Pythagorean theorem. Okay, if I draw a line from here, let's say, actually, I'm going to erase all, zoom, X, and boom, line from 0, 0, 0, and I'm going to go over, excuse me, I'm going to go up to 1, 1, 0, 0, boom. Okay, so I asked Cody this weekend. I said, so how long is this line? All right, we set our units to architectural, and let's give ourselves a 1/8 inch accuracy. Click OK. How long is this line? All right. Anybody want to take a guess? Cody, you remember? No.
I'm trying to remember.
Don't sweat it. Okay, I'm going to pick it. I'm going to list it. Okay, it says this is 1 3/8 inches of an inch. Okay, now is that true? No, it's not. Set my units, and I set my accuracy here. Boom. Pick OK. Now list that. That length is 1.41421356, which happens to be the square root of 2. All right.
Oh, right. I remember now.
Because a squared equals b squared. A squared plus b squared equals c squared, because this is a triangle. You go from here, 1, this way, 1. This is the hypotenuse of the triangle. So keep in mind that math is fun, and you can definitely have a good time with that. All right. So the actual length of the line is the square root of 2. All right. SQRT 2.0, boom, boom. Notice the difference there, 1.4121, and we click the length of this line here, it's 1.412421. So there we go. All right. Okay. Are the two links the same? No. What's the text? All right. Let's talk about text for a second. Now, if you type in the style command and you create a style, you're going to create the style. Let's create a new one. We'll say my style. All right. And I'm going to pick, I'm good with Arial. I'm going to go with that. Pick a close. And I type in text and I pick apply. And it is prompted me for a text height. It is defaulted to 0.2. All right. So I'm going to give the text height a 0.125 because that's the most common text height I want to use. Hit enter. Now it's asking me for a rotation. Hit enter. I type in my hello CAD. Boom. All right. So there we are. This is 0.125 text height. I pick on it. It shows me it's 0.125. Now, another beauty of that is we talk about our units and we're in architectural and I set that accuracy to, like an 1/8 inch, pick OK, and I draw a line or a piece of text. Again, I pick point. It's asking me for a distance here. As soon as I get the 1/8 inch, I pick OK, and then I rotate. I hit done. Now those don't look the same height, do they? But as far as that goes, if I click there, it says it's 1/8 inch. I pick here, and it says it's 1/8 inch. Are those the same? You can easily see they're not. This is where your rounding issues or your accuracy issues will bite you in the butt. Because in all reality, this is not 1/8 of an inch. Pick OK, set that precision a little bit better. I like 8. That's me. Okay, you pick there, you see that's 0.074015551. Okay, when you're dealing with architectural units and your accuracy is set to 8, it will round up to the closest 1/8. So this is a long way from it. It's almost halfway away from it, but it's just above. 0.0625 is half of it. So it just got above there and went to 1/8 of an inch and said that's what it was. And you can see these are two different heights. All right, so keep that in mind. Now, to get AutoCAD to stop prompting you for a text height, you can use a predefined text style or text height. So I'm going to type in style and we're going to create another one. Okay, new by predefined text style. Do not use one this long for any reason. Okay, I'm just doing that for make purpose here. All right, and I want that height to be 0.2125. I've set that height now. Now it will not prompt me for it. That does not lock me in to 0.125, but it will not prompt me when I place new text. So if I type in text now, I pick a spot, boom. Now and notice it's asking me for the rotation. It's not asking me for height. So I pick the rotation, I type in text. Yeekst. I can't type. Text style. Boom. And you can see this and this are the same height. All right, so I pick there, it's 0.125. I pick there, 0.125. They match. That does not prevent me from picking all three of these and actually changing them to a different height. I can sit here and take all these to 0.1875. I can manually override that at the entity level here. Okay, but the second I change it back to a style that I want, if I want to click here and click the style and I say my predefined text style, it will actually put it back to this height. If I go to my style, okay, it's not necessarily going to change the height of it. Okay, if I go standard, it's not going to change because it's not predefined. But if I pick one that does have a predefined text height, it's going to change that text height to all match. Okay, so now, actually, I guess it did. Okay, it used to. All right, so now I can actually change that to 0.12. Get off that. If you actually pick this over here, that's a little calculator, and it pops up and it looks like this. And then you can actually just run some little calculation functions if you want to. If you wanted to work out what the scale factor is, you could actually type that in here and make that happen. I don't ever use that. Okay, but then you just click in here, 0.125, and done. Okay, good deal. All right, now let's talk about text width. All right, text width is something that comes up in CAD quite a bit as well, because you're trying to squeeze something in. All right, if you have a title box, say you have a P box, let's do this. I'm going to draw a box from here to here, boom, and I want to move this into here. I'm going to say from INS of here to END point of here. All right, and say I want this to fit in here, but I had to change this something else. This is longer than the box. All right, now I'm kind of screwed because this went outside the box. A lot of times in CAD, okay, you'll pick on something and you'll notice the width factor is not 1.0. 9 times out of 10 is going to be like 0.8. If I change that to 0.8, it still doesn't quite fit in the box. Okay, so you could kind of tighten it up. I don't recommend going past 0.7. Okay, 0.75 is really small, but 0.7 is really it gets really tiny, and what happens, it kind of squeezes things in, but it does work. And as long as it's legible in your drawing, it's okay. And it depends on the font itself as well. It might be a little bit wider font. This kind of works pretty well for this particular font, and it happens. But when you get into text that's really small, which this, when you 6.8 or eighth of an inch, you're going to be in pretty good shape. But again, 9 times out of 10, 0.8 or 0.85 are really good width factors in CAD. Okay. Oh, I did oblique angle, didn't want that. My bad. Okay. All right. So that kind of answers some of those questions about that. All right. And again, several ways to do, like if I'm drawing a line, all right, and I want to pick the point as line. If I hit enter, space bar, or the right mouse click, okay, depending on the right mouse click settings, okay, if I hit space bar, that terminates the command. It's done. Okay. If I type in trim and then I hit space, it automatically goes to an enter and starts the command. I type in trim, I hit enter, it does the command. The space bar is the same thing as enter. Okay, this becomes a problem when you are wanting to use things that have spaces in it and you're wanting to do something. So if you're going to turn off the file dialog box, yeah, okay, I turned that off. So now if I type in open, it doesn't prompt me for a file, or doesn't prompt me with a dialog box. If I'm actually feeding it, so if you get into script files or something like that, and you're feeding it drawing names, and you might have a path or a file name or something like that, it gets kind of quirky. So what we're going to do, I'm going to actually save as, I'm going to call this 2018 is fine, and I'm going to call this drawing, or I want to say my space drawing. My space drawing. Okay, there's actually a space in there. You can see it's there. Boom. Notice space did not become an enter there. Okay, and that's fine. All right, so now I'm going to close this. I'm going to go to a new drawing. Boom, and I want to open that file. Open, and I type in my space file. It will open. Actually, it won't open here, but oh, I'm already in it. No, not. Yeah. Okay. Open. All right, and you see it's having problems. Okay. Oh, because I didn't type it right. All right. So there it is. But when you're in a script file, you would actually put that in quotations. So you'd actually do this, my drawing. And then you can hit enter, and then it'll actually process that information. So I mean, that's not doing anything right there. Just understand that you want to avoid spaces and special characters in your file names. I've got a blog up there about drawing name conventions or naming conventions. Read that. That's going to help you a lot. And it will drive you crazy when other people don't actually follow that suit. But get out of the habit of trying to put spaces in things. You can use camel case. Instead of saving like I did, save as, I could say my drawing. Just uppercase M and uppercase D, hit enter there. Well, my drawing. When you turn off the file dialog box, it wants to prompt you for the drawing format type. So that's why it's actually asking me for the drawing format type. And I stuck with the 2018 by default. If you look here, the default is shown in not parentheses, in angle brackets back and forth. So when you hit enter, that means that's what it's going to give you, is that is the default. Otherwise, you have to type in one of these other numbers here to get it to do something different. That's the way it works in AutoCAD, period. So make sure you understand that part. So I'll save that as that. I'm good. File DIA. If you find yourself, you're like, why can't I get the file dialog box pop up? File DIA is the name of the system variable, and you set that to 1. And now if I open, it'll pop up with a dialog box. All right, so there's that. All right, you should also understand what, there's also mtext. I know I'm all over the place. All right, mtext is here. You typically draw a box for mtext to go in, and then you can just kind of start typing. And what the box does, it creates a limit for it, basically go side to side and everything else. That's mtext. If you keep hitting enter, it just keeps putting a big box down here and a bunch of spaces in there. You don't need that. You don't want to do that. So don't get in the habit of doing that. Make sure you pick off or pick the OK in the mtext dialog box. Now you can't come in here. If you go to the end of this, you keep typing, it just keeps going. Since you hit enter, you're done with that. This is the difference between text and multi-text. Multi-text is multi-line text is what it means. It basically, when you double click on that, it basically pops up like a word editor. Okay, you can actually come in here, you can change some of these things to bold, you can make some of this stuff different colors. A variety of different things you can actually do in here. So I can come here and make this part green, and that gets really annoying because then you don't have the control at the layer level, you don't have the control at the style level, you don't have the control at a parent level. This becomes very unique and tedious to deal with if you actually want to update something. All right, so if somebody wanted to come back and make some modifications of this programmatically, it's tedious and requires a lot more code to do so. And it's not something that's actually efficient in that means. So get in the habit of trying to find the most simplest, efficient means to do something. I typically prefer text, and I stay away from in-text unless it's only for notes or legends, not necessarily legends, but large paragraphs of stuff like that. Because what's beautiful about in-text is if I come in here about that, and I could blank this out and I can say this is a piece text, text, boom. And this is a second. I can't type for crap, never claimed I could. Third. Boom. And then you pick off, and it's there. So if I needed for some reason to squeeze this into a tighter space, if I just do this, it'll actually expand down to the number of lines it needs to do for me in that aspect of it. I come over here to do this, I've got to actually make a copy of this, bring it down, and then chop and paste and build up to what I want to get the same thing. So if you have multiple lines, it's not a bad thing. But when you're dealing with leaders and places on text, it's usually much better to be consistent and have a consistent approach. That's why I typically use text for everything inside the drawing, notes and things like that. I use MText for. Again, that's a personal preference. Some people are crazy about it. Some people are not. I prefer text. So we made that clear. Okay. Understand your color indexes. Type in color command. If I type in the color command and I start picking colors here, that means that is the color that I'm going to be drawing in. I draw here, it's suddenly there. So if I change my color of my layer, I'm going to layer my color and I change it to pink, guess what? It doesn't change that line. It just changes all the stuff that's normally colored. If I pick on these, you can see these all have a color specifically assigned. All right, you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that this is always by layer. All right, you can assign things, but don't, just don't. All right. Okay, so understand your color codes. I'm going to go to layer, and I'm going to, from here, I'm going to pick the color. You have these are your primary colors. Color index is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this is 250, 251, 52, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, these are all the additional colors all the way up to 250. Okay, so this is going to be 18. You keep scooting over or just keep jumping up by tens, and everything else and kind of walks all the way down and around. Okay, so you have up to 9. All right, and you can manually type in colors. You want 10. Okay, you want 11, and that's what you get. So you can manually type in those colors. You also have true type colors. The differences is your CTV files will allow you to plot based on these things here and then work with it. But as soon as you go to a true type color, it is going to plot that color, period. Okay. I'm not a big fan of STV files. STV files might give you a different control level of this, but I haven't actually played with that part. I'll have to look into that part. But if you want something to actually plot out and everything else is black and white, you pick a true color, you're going to get that kind of color. It works really well on like logos inside of a company logo or something like that in a title block. All right. And we talked about by layer. By layer is critical. All right, let's talk about, there's a couple of different settings here, okay? If you look at here, let's go back to here, and you look at by layer and by block. All right, by block means whatever it's set to, and it's kind of a complicated thing, and it applies to things in a block per se, and it can also come across when you reference in a drawing as an XREF, because then you're actually treating that entire drawing as a block. So by block and by layer are both two very special settings. Okay, by block, okay, we'll take on those properties of blocks. So let's draw a circle. All right, go here, and I'm going to make this a block, and I'm just going to call it circle, circ. I'm going to pick a point. It's going to be the center, which is a good spot for a circular type symbol. And I'm going to pick the objects. Boom. All right, pick OK. Boom. Now I'm going to create a layer. This layer is blue. And this layer is red. And this one is green. All right, so I'm gonna set this to blue. Click OK. I'm gonna set this to red. Okay, I'm gonna set this to green. All right, so now if I change the layer of this, okay, and I change it to blue, notice it didn't change. Okay, because it's on the blue layer, but it's set to by block. So I'd have to actually change the color of this insert to what I want it to be. All right, so it's kind of a complicated thing. You can kind of tweak it and adjust it. So I can have two of these next to each other. Okay, I can change this one. I can actually manipulate this one by changing the by block to red, and it goes there. And this one here, I can change to different layer, and I can set it to, oh, not that, green. Okay, but let's go back in here, be edit, and now I'm going to modify this circle, and I'm going to update this. I'm going to pick this out, and instead of being by block, I'm going to set it to by layer. All right, and I'm going to be close. Good. All right, so now they're all going to be blue, period, because the line inside that is set to by layer. So it takes on those bilayer properties. So let's do it a little bit differently. Let's go be edit, and I'll modify the circle. Click OK, and I set this in here to red. All right, I'm forcing that to red inside the block. Yes, now they're always red. It doesn't matter what I do with them. I can't change them to a different color. I can set pink. I can do everything I want to. It's not going to change the color of it at all. By block gives you the ability to change it by block. So if you change the assignment of the block, regardless of what layer it's on, it'll take on those properties. Otherwise, it's going to be white or zero based on where it's actually at. Okay. So that it gets kind of confusing. By layer is the best setting to go with. I would avoid by block. All right. Also, some things are actually in every drawing. If you type in line type, there's always going to be continuous in the line. By layer and by block are not true line types. They are just assignments. Okay, but continuous is the name of the line type. It's always in here. You can load more line types by hitting the load file, and you can browse to a different ACAD line file if you want to, and download other ones or custom lines that you might create in the future. Okay, kind of scroll down. You can see all these various line types. Okay, so that's how you'd actually get a line type on something if you wanted to make something happen there. All right. Something else always in every drawing is you type in style. There's always going to be a standard style. I recommend you leave the standard style alone and don't use it, because the standard style is used by a lot of different things, custom line types and things like that. For instance, let's take advantage of that. Let's check that out real quick. Let's type in line. We're going to draw a line across here. So I'm going to change that line. I'm going to load a line type. Type in line type. I'm going to load, and I'm going to load one of these fonts down here that uses characters in it. Okay, this uses gas line. It has the word gas in it. Okay, so I pick that, pick OK, and I'm going to set this to gas. Line type, I'm going to set, don't do this. All right, so there it is. It says gas, looks good and everything else. But I come here and I mess with the standard style. All right, if I check, put a height on there and say 0.125. Boom. Okay, and I regen. Okay, that's not modifying it. DDR style. So if I, because it's on the wrong one, 0.125, boom, and regen. Boom. This can get to where it starts affecting this right now. Actually, we're okay right now because the text height's not affecting its style. And I set it to 0.5, boom. Okay, close, again, all. It's actually not affecting it, but if you modify the style, like if I come in here and I set it to a different font, bold or Libra, okay. Let's go with something different. Orville, something weird. Boom, pick close. Boom. Wow, they must have actually done something weird there. 9 times out of 10, that'll actually affect that line type. But apparently it's not making my point. But it does draw from the standard style. So you want to make sure you don't mess. Oh, again, I was messing. No, I was what? All right. Boom, width factor. Okay, change width factor 0.5. Boom. And height 125. Oh, because I wasn't actually doing it. Apply, pick close. And now you can see how it's affecting it. This is what I was trying to show you. I just kept typing in the wrong spot. So if you mess with a standard style, it will actually kind of skew things up, and then your line type doesn't actually show the way it's supposed to show. So this is why you want to avoid messing with that. All right. Yeah, there's always, we talked about some things that are always in the drawing. We talked about the line types always in the drawing. We talked about the style that's always in the drawing. There's also dimension styles. You type in DDIM, there's always a standard dimension style. All right. Now you can modify and update the standard dimension style all day long, but keep in mind that it's usually best to create your own custom one. Okay, that sets things up the way you want to. You can't depend on standard being the way you think it's going to be, because sometimes it won't be. Somebody else may have tweaked it, adjusted, or whatever. So keep in mind, try and avoid modifying these standards that are already set, because they come in every drawing as a default. Now, somebody could modify those and tweak those in the acad.dwt file that you end up loading at the beginning and kind of skew everything up. But again, for general practices, standard font style and line types will kind of affect the way your drawing comes out. And so watch out for those kind of things. All right, we've talked about a block is. Let's see, talked about symbol, we've talked about period bubbles, talked about insertion points. Yeah, I think I'm going to kind of stop right there and not get into too much more deep stuff. Let's kind of open it up. Anybody have any questions on any things we kind of covered tonight?
I got one.
Okay.
Earlier, you were talking about the accuracy
Uh-huh.
and how it can be off when you use the mouse. When we use the command, like you hit line and then you click a starting point and then you type in at like 15, 00, 0. Is that going to be accurate?
That is 100% accurate. Yes.
Okay, that's why you're such a big fan of the keyboard versus the mouse.
That's extremely the reason I'm a big fan of the keyboard. Exactly. So what you type is exactly what it does. It doesn't say, "Hey, I'm rounding based on where your cursor is located at." It's actually typing in that dimension. And that's distance. So inputting your relative or absolute coordinates is going to give you real dimensions and everything else.
All right, that's the only question I had.
Okay, Cody, any questions, buddy?
No, sir. I don't think so. I'm trying to think of something. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay. Well, I didn't cover any fun 3D stuff tonight, but I think, I'm trying to go over a bulk of material and get that into you guys. And I also have a bunch of lessons I've been doing for the company I work for. I'm going to upload those up to my YouTube channel, but I'm going to put those in a private channel, and I'll share those with just you guys. So you kind of go through those. They're usually like 15 minutes to 20 minutes a piece. And then we'll kind of walk you through some of the concepts and things that I actually use on a daily basis. And so it'll be very educational for you to just kind of browse through those. And they're like little small segments, so you don't have to worry about spending an hour watching or anything like that. So.
Gotcha.
Right.
I was actually meaning to ask you about this. I was meaning to remember to ask you because I remember you talked about that when we were driving. That you had those videos.
Yes, and I'll definitely get those uploaded probably tomorrow sometime, and then I'll send you guys a link in Discord. Okay, yeah. And are y'all subscribed on my channel?
Yes, sir. Yep, I'm subscribed.
All right, let me check, make sure you do. Not that I'm a super big YouTuber or anything like that. I just want to make sure that I can share the data with you guys pretty easily. Subscriptions. How do I check who has subscriptions to me? Let's see. My channel. Click. I don't even know how to see who's following me. This is why I'm not a YouTuber. Okay. About channels, community.
You have 3 subscribers.
I have 3 subscribers. I can't even see that anywhere.
It won't show me. Let me see. Let me look on mine and see how I could see.
Okay.
Settings.
Yeah, this is where I feel like an idiot. This is definitely not my my forte. Here's channel YouTube, switch account, sign in. I assume there's a analysis or trending or something.
Well, I'm subscribed for sure. I had to check.
What's that?
I had to make sure I was subscribed. I am.
Click on my profile. That didn't help. Customize your channel. Nope, that's not what I want to do.
Oh, my YouTube's not helpful. I have no subscribers, so I couldn't even see it.
I got 87 views. Lessons. Yeah, I'll play with that and figure that out, but I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna stop the recording real quick. That weird. That was like
know.
a total idiot on YouTube.
I know if you're